Hello and happy Tuesday. Dr. S here. Welcome. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm super excited to be joining with you all today. I'm hoping that, I don't know why for some reason now, Facebook is like coming up different when I pop on. And so I don't know, it's being weird. I'm not gonna fight with it. At any rate, how is everyone doing? How is your Tuesday so far? Mine has been pretty chill. So Dr. S here. Thank you for joining me for Word of Mouth with Dr. S. I did not promote this today. I wasn't really sure if I was going to pop on, but I figured I should, right? I have a few nuggets I would like to drop. So dropping nuggets you didn't know you needed. And as always, it's my hope and prayer that they will help you be your best you. So if you've ever hung out with me before, if you've ever gotten a nugget, please tag somebody, please share this video. The more the merrier. I love for these to be interactive. I love to hear your thoughts on whatever is being discussed. And so if you help me get the word out, I would greatly appreciate it. So while we're doing that, I'll catch you up on a couple of things. So welcome IG, welcome Facebook, welcome YouTube family. When you're watching the replay, so happy for you to hang out with me, with us today. So this weekend, if you're in the St. Louis area, this weekend is our health and wellness event. I'm so excited. I know I say that about everything, but actually I really am excited about all of the things that the Lord is allowing us to do. So health and wellness event this Saturday, April 30th from 11 to 1. We're going to have my friend Rashonda Thornton, who is a licensed dietitian. Her handle is the Dietitian Against Diets. And I love that. And she's going to be talking to us about like healthy eating and just being mindful, and that you don't have to diet, you don't have to restrict yourself in the way that maybe some of us think about dieting, but we can do that in a way that is healthy, that will benefit our bodies and not harm us. And then my friend Marnine Wells is going to hang out with us, and she is going to be talking about Christian yoga or Christian meditation, breathing, stretching, those kind of things. And so she is going to take us through a routine. And I'm excited about what that's going to look like. I know me, as I have aged, I've gotten a lot more tight. Like I'm not as flexible as I once was when I, see kids and I'm like, they're bending over backwards and doing, I'm like, I used to could do that. So, but this body is not doing that anymore. But maybe it's still possible if I, spend some time learning some techniques. So if you're in the area, come hang out with us. We would love to see you. It is only $15. And the reason why I say only is because if any of you have popped up at a gym or went to go take a class, like it's $20, $25, $30, depending on where you're going. And so this is only $15 to hear some experts in their field talk about healthy living, like the larger. So I talk a lot about, our spiritual health, but now we're talking about our physical health. We're talking about our mental health. We're talking about other things that we can combine with the things that I usually discuss, either word of mouth or respective. Hey guys, and hey Facebook, be sure to comment on Facebook so I can say hey to you. So just in conjunction, like the Bible says in 3 John 3 John verse 2, I pray above all things that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul shall prosper. Hey, Miss Drea. Hey, Miss Kim. So, while we are building up our most holy faith, let us also build up our physical bodies, right? So I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to let you all know I'm trying to decide if I'm going to take a break from weekly lives over the summer. On the one hand, it's like, well, I have more time. I should be more available. But on the other hand, it's also an opportunity to kind of regroup, figure out some things. There are some things that I want to work on, and I really want to get those things done before school starts back in August. So I'm still toying around with that. So if you don't see me as much, please know that I'm alive and well, all is well, just working on some really exciting new projects and ventures that I can't wait to share with you all. So keep an eye out. With that though, when I do lives, especially if they're like this kind of live, a word of mouth or something scheduled, or like is a more than a pop-up video, I'm going to start doing those on YouTube. I'm going to live stream directly from YouTube. So if you like any of my content, any of my videos, if any of the things that I say, and for church culture, Teaching Tuesdays, word of mouth, whatever term I'm calling it, if any of that ministers to you in any way, then I strongly encourage you to follow my YouTube channel. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. You should be able to find it if you just look up Dr. Sha-Lai, or if you're on Facebook, I put the actual YouTube link on the post that I made today. So please, please, please subscribe. I would love to get to 100 followers, 100 subscribers. I don't know how YouTube actually works, but if I could get to 100, I just feel like that's a nice little milestone. So if you haven't already, please go subscribe, and then you'll get notifications when I pop on to hear whatever nugget the Lord is dropping. So I've given us time to share, get the word out. Again, tag somebody, invite somebody. Love you guys to hang out with me. I want to continue the discussion that I started last week. So if you all have watched me for any length of time, then you probably have noticed I spend a lot of time watching TV. We're going to work on that. But in addition to, reading the Bible, praying, some of the traditional things that we do to hear from the Lord, I really feel like God drops nuggets to me through some of the things I've watched. I remember years and years and years ago preaching a sermon based on America's Next Top Model. I don't remember specifically the title, but I remember it was based on America's Next Top Model. And I've talked to you guys based on what I learned from watching My 600-Pound Life. And last week I started watching The World's Toughest Race. It's the Eco Challenge Fiji. It's a couple of years old. It is narrated and hosted by Bear Grylls. And if you know him, he's like a survivalist and, can live off a cactus in the desert type thing. They drop him in the middle of nowhere and he's able to make it. And so this whole Eco Challenge is an 11-day race in Fiji, 66 teams. You can watch the video from last week to get more of the details, but just to give you a quick recap. And so they are racing to complete this trek through the jungles and terrain and waterfall, like all of this stuff in Fiji. They have up to 11 days. I didn't realize it. They had, I knew it was 11 days. Some teams finished sooner. So the team that won completed this trek in 6 days, but they had up to 11 days to complete it. They covered 471 miles, I think I said last week. They had 5 different legs, always had a water component, always had a navigation component through the jungle, and it always had a biking component. And so these people were selected, these 66 teams were selected out of thousands of teams to participate in this race that is the toughest in the world, the most extensive in the world. And some teams made it and some teams didn't. I think out of the 66 teams, like 44 or 47 made it to the finish line by the 11-day cutoff. And I just was amazed. I had never heard of such. Like, I've heard of like triathlons and, Ironman and those kind of things, but I had never heard of this type of race. And when I first started watching it, I honestly was like, why are y'all doing this? What is the significance of this? Why would anybody basically torture themselves in this way? But as I watched it and listened to what they at least aired, that the people said, they were really like, I have learned so much about myself in this process. There were some demons I needed to tackle, and I was able, to do that in this process. I've grown closer to my loved ones because there were teams of 4 people, and so it could be people who knew each other as far as like worked together, who did other competitions together. Some people were like, I used to watch my dad do this and now I get to do it with him. So all kind of components. And so just to see the transformation that they experienced going through this process, I was like, wow, this is really significant. And so when I did the live last week, I think I had only watched maybe 5 or 6 of the like 10 episodes. So I finished watching it. And as I was watching the very last episode, when it was no longer about who was going to win, it was just like, who's going to get to the finish line, I started jotting down lessons that I learned from what they were saying and the experiences that they were having and the perseverance that they had. And so I want to share them with you all. So feel free to let me know what you think as I am chatting about the world's toughest race and the lessons that I learned. And I'm sure there are more. You should watch it and let me know what you think. So one of the lessons that I learned is you're never too old. You're never too old. You want to go back to school? Okay, you're never too old. You want to, I don't know, become a professional bodybuilder? I don't know why that popped up in my mind. You're never too old. You are never too old, and there is no life circumstance that is too great for you to do what it is that you want to do. There was a gentleman on one of the teams. He was like in his 70s. He has been doing these types of races for years and years and years. Like, he is I forget what he's called, but he runs like 100-mile races. Like, he's an endurance runner, like beyond marathons. Like, and this is the kind of thing that he does. And he was planning on participating in this event with other people like in his age. He was like in his 70s, as I mentioned, other people in his age who had participated in races before. But he was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. And so instead of participating in the race with the team that he would have ordinarily been with, he participated in a team with his son and 2 other people. And so he was a testament to so many people participating in the race, because here he is in his 70s. Here he is struggling with early onset Alzheimer's, and he is pushing through the jungle and the rivers of Fiji, participating in this race. Now, there are a lot of things that we can do with our time and our body. Going through the mountains and terrain of Fiji might not be it. But if this man in his 70s with this condition can push through, then I think that's saying something to us. And that's saying something to me, even when I was watching it that last day and taking notes. I was working out and I was like just regular, like, I don't know if my coach will watch this, but, just regular old upper and lower body. And I was like, okay, Sha-Lai, you can do 5 more of this or 6 more of that. These people are going through the Fijian mountains on ropes. You can do a push-up. You can do a sit-up. So let that encourage you. You are never too old. There is no circumstance that can prevent you from doing what it is that you feel like the Lord is calling you to do. So that's the first thing. So the second thing is, the second lesson that I learned is face your fears. So some of us, life may have happened. We may be nervous about some things. We may experience anxiety about some things. We may feel like, I tried it before and it wasn't successful. I failed. So now I have this fear of failure. I have this fear of the unknown. I don't want to do it. But face your fears. They're right. I can't do a push-up, especially watching people paddle through rivers. And so face your fears. So there was a young lady. So as I mentioned, it's for every leg, which there were 5 of them, each had 3 components: water, mountain bike, and some kind of navigation. And so one of the times when they had to do something on water, they had to do basically like whitewater rafting. And one of the ladies on one of the teams in a previous race died. Hear me? She died. They had to resuscitate her and bring her back to life after she, I guess, fell into the water and drowned, basically. I'm laughing, but it's just like in amazement that this woman lost her physical life. You know what I'm saying? She was dead, they said. She was dead. They resuscitated her, brought her back to life. And here she is years later, about to step into another raft to try again. And she said, I'm afraid. And her teammates rallied around her. They were like, we got you. You can do this. But she faced her fear. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how many times we have started things and stopped because we were afraid? But this woman made it to the end of the trek. This particular team made it to the end of the race. But if she had allowed her fear to overtake her, that wouldn't have happened. Right. That's a different kind of strength. That wouldn't have happened if she had been like, oh my gosh. And this is extreme. This whole concept is extreme of this world's toughest race. And so I know for some people are like, this example is Dr. S. But again, if she could face her fear from death to tackle this, then I know for me, it's some things like, well, what if they, how? That stuff doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, especially if we're talking about the things of God, if God has called us to do this, then our fears shouldn't hold us back. I was going to say they're irrelevant. They're not irrelevant. We recognize that they are what they are, and we face them. We push ahead. We persevere, despite being afraid. What's that saying? Do it afraid. Like, don't allow that to stop you. So that was the second lesson that I learned. So the third lesson that I learned was, it might get messy, but keep pressing. It might get messy. Life is going to get messy. Ain't no mic to it. Life is going to get messy. Things don't always go as planned. And if you are like me, that's your fear. Because I am a planner. My friend Patrice and I pick all the time that we are ABC. I have lists for my list in multiple places. I'm writing things down. And when things don't go as planned, it literally throws me for a loop. Like, I get frustrated. I get anxious. I'm like, I want to quit. I don't want to do it because it's not right, right? But life is going to get messy and you have to keep pressing. So there were examples in this show where they had to do the mountain bike portion. Well, it's Fiji. I don't know a lot about Fiji, but it's a tropical area. Well, in tropical areas, they have unexpected storms. Woof, that's a whole, I ain't even learned. That's add that one to the list. Storms will come, but you're going to still keep pushing. Anyway, so they have these unexpected storms. And so for the people who made it through the mountain bike portion while it was dry, they were cool. But after a torrential rain, imagine trying to ride a mountain bike through like this thick, nasty red mud. If you ever watch it, like they had to walk their bikes because you can't get through. You can't bike. It's not possible because it's so muddy and nasty and messy. But they kept pressing. They got off their bikes. They pushed their bikes to 30 miles or however far they had to go, but they kept moving forward. So life might happen. Life is going to happen, and it's probably going to happen not the way you wanted it to, not the way you expected, not the way that's ideal, but keep pressing, keep moving, keep going forward, because you're still going to get to the finish line, even if you're muddy, even if you're dirty, even if you thought you were going to do ABC, but it was AKX. Keep pressing, keep moving forward, even when it gets messy. So that's number 3. Hope you guys are writing this down. If not, you can watch the replay. So the 4th thing that I learned from watching this is you might make a mistake, and probably will. You might make a mistake, but you regroup and get back to the race. So I mentioned that they have this navigational component. They call it trekking. And they have to trek through the jungle. It's so interesting to me that people find this exciting. Anyway, they have to trek through the jungle with machetes. Some of the people, because it's 24 hours, right? They're doing it in the dead of night. They have the little lamps on their helmets, knocking down bamboo and stuff in the way. And they have, every team has to have a person who's really strong in navigational skills. So they have a team captain, someone's good with navigational skills, someone who's like a strong swimmer or something like that. And then some of the teams have like nurses or people with medical backgrounds. But everybody had to have somebody who was good with navigation because this was a part of the race, right? So despite having a skill in navigation, several other teams got lost. Several other teams partly got lost because they were like, I think I'm looking at the map. I think if we cut through here, it's a shortcut. We can bypass the trail that they already have marked out for us, and we can possibly shave some time. Almost always that didn't work, but they tried it. But some of them made mistakes, and it cost them hours. It cost them just energy because you're out here basically in the middle of nowhere on no sleep, little food. So it's costly. It's a costly mistake. But they just looked at the map and was like, okay, well, let's figure it out. Or I think, okay, this looks like, could this be the ridge? Okay, maybe that's what, and they just kept in it. They didn't give up. They kept moving. Even though it may have thrown them off, even though it might not have been the original trek, they ended up getting where they needed to go. So I took from that, you might make a mistake. And just like life is probably definitely going to get messy, you're probably definitely going to make a mistake at some point. And that mistake is relative. Everybody's mistake isn't the same, but something, again, may happen, may get you off course, might take you in a direction you hadn't planned or wasn't God's original intent for you. But because he is the God that orders our steps, he'll get us back on track. So just take the time to regroup and do what you have to do. So with those two examples in mind in particular, the fifth thing that I learned from watching this is don't give up. The level of tenacity, the level of endurance, the level of perseverance that these teams embodied, oh my gosh, it truly was like awe-inspiring. There were definitely times I teared up because, as Parker would tell you, my son, I'm a big sap. But I was just like, oh my gosh, Alzheimer's, age, injuries, death, all kind of things. Like they were like, unless the people tell us we can't go forward, we're going to keep going. There were teams that it literally took the doctor saying, hey, we have to get you to the hospital. Hey, this cut is infected. I found out about it's some kind of foot thing, like what happens when your feet don't get dry. They spend too much time in the water, and it happened in one of the world wars. But like people were like, their feet were just horrible. Like all these different things that were ailments and afflictions. And they were like, until these people tell me I can't go on, I'm going to keep pushing. Saints, what would happen if we had that type of tenacity? If we didn't give up, if we were like, until the Lord says, I'm going to keep pressing, until God says, stop, till it's my last breath. You know, I could get super churchy, and that's not my intent. But don't give up. Don't give up, even though it's messy, even though mistakes might happen, even though you might be afraid. Don't give up. So a few more things, and then I'm gonna get on off. I hope this is helping you in some way, shape, or form. So the sixth thing that I learned is don't compare yourself to others. Now I know we talk a lot about not comparing selves and stay in your lane and that kind of thing. And this show was another embodiment of that. Don't compare yourself to others and run your own race. Run your own race. For some of these teams, they were like, we're not going to make it on the board. So, of course, they had the top 3, then they had the top 10, and then they were like, who finished? And it was several teams, kind of, you know, middle of the road teams, or teams who knew they were very close to the end of the teams, as far as, you know, the number that they were in throughout the race and will possibly be in when they finish the race. But several of those teams said it was never about winning. It was never about, you know, catching up to the Aussies, or, you know, being like Team USA. This was about me. This was about me and my sister. This is about me and my dad. This was about, you know, me getting back up, you know, trying this before, faltering, and they finally brought it back, and I get to do it again. But it was like a race against themselves, a race against what they felt like their limitations were, a race against just them. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about anybody else. It wasn't like the first team made it to the finish line and all the other teams said, oh, well, helicopter, HQ, come get us. They didn't have that mentality. That's the kind of mentality that we have when we compare ourselves to others. Oh, they already wrote their book. I ain't even gonna work on mine. What? They already, you know, started a business. Well, I mean, there's no need for me to do mine. I'm too old. I have too much going on. It's too late. No, it's not like that. We cannot compare ourselves to other people. We have to run our own race. And when we do that, as long as you're pushing towards the finish line, that's all that matters. That is all that matters. So don't worry about how someone else did it or when they did it. Run your race. Run your race. Hey guys, welcome again, IG, Facebook. Feel free to tag, invite, share, all of those good things. The more the merrier. I'm just talking about some things, some additional things, lessons that I learned, some nuggets that I got from watching the world's toughest race. So, number 7, lessons learned. Allow yourself to evaluate your motivation. So when you're running your own race and you're not comparing yourself to other people, this gives you a chance to figure out what's your motivation, what's your why. I talked a little bit about this on Friday. For my FB fam, you can watch the replay on FB, or my IG folks actually uploaded it onto YouTube, so you can check it out. But what's your why? What's your motivation? Why are you doing this? So again, because they were challenging themselves, because they were pushing themselves, because it was about what they needed or could learn about themselves, it gave them time to reflect and to evaluate their motivation. And when you know that, that keeps you going, that keeps you pushing, that keeps you saying, you know what, I did trip and fall and slide on this rock, or this water was freezing cold. Like, people were literally suffering from hypothermia because it was so, they had to trek through water, swim through water for long periods of time. So because their motivation was, I want to see how far I can push myself, not because I'm comparing myself to Shanika or trying to figure out what Malcolm over here doing, because it's about me. And that's my why. I'm going to keep going. So as I thought about that, I was like, oh my gosh, when I know that I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, 1, as unto the Lord, and 2, so I could be my best me, then that's going to be my motivation. That's what's going to make me get up. That's, push through, finish up, do this, do that, because that's my why, not other people. Maybe, you might be like, oh, I'm doing it for my kids. Cool. But even that sometimes is not enough, because you like, look, your kid. What's your why? So it allows you to evaluate your motivation. Just 2 more things. I learned that you keep pushing to teach yourself about yourself. So these last few are really, all of these have been introspective, but these last few are like really deep self-reflection. So don't compare yourself to others, run your own race, evaluate your motivation, and then keep pushing yourself to teach yourself about yourself. Keep pushing to teach yourself about yourself. What they learned about themselves in this journey, I think, and many of them said this, was better than a gold medal, was better than finishing in the top 10. For people to learn, especially for the women, to say, this shows me how strong I am. For one of the young ladies, she had participated in a race before, and I don't think so there have been many races she participated in. One did really well, and I think one she participated in and didn't do as well, and then ended up, maybe not because she didn't do well, but kind of coincided with a breakdown. She said a nervous breakdown and dealing with depression and all these kind of things. And so for her, it was like, this is a reminder of who I actually am. I am strong, not only physically, but mentally. To hear some of the women from countries that maybe don't support women as much as they could, to say, I'm doing this to show other young girls that we're strong and that it's possible. So they push themselves beyond their limits to teach themselves about themselves. To hear one gentleman talked about his dad had committed suicide and how that had plagued him for many, many years. And even though his team ended up not making it to the finish line because one of their teammates got injured and the whole team has to be able to finish, he was like, these 5 days, these 6 days have still been phenomenal, because now I see that I'm mentally strong. Now I see then I'm okay. And so the challenge of the race, the challenge of pushing themselves beyond typical, normal limits and boundaries really taught them this deeper strength that maybe they didn't realize that they had, or maybe it confirmed something they already knew. But all of them, I don't think there was one person who, at least in what they showed on the video, who didn't say, I have learned so much about myself in this process. So we keep pushing, we keep persevering against any odds, any difficulties, any frustrations, any hindrances, any fears. We keep pushing to teach ourselves about ourselves. And then the last thing is an actual quote from one of the participants. And he said, I like to suffer with a purpose. Y'all, because if I'm gonna suffer, it should be for something. It should have a purpose. It should be a reason behind it. And he said, I like to suffer with a purpose. So if we are doing whatever it is that we are doing, if we are doing this for a purpose and we experience setbacks, we experience, trials and tribulations, we experience stuff from the outside world, whether it's, the enemy, whether it's another person, whether it's persecution. If we suffer, but we're suffering for a purpose, then that just has a whole different weight to it. That just has a whole different meaning to it. I like to suffer. If I'm going to deal with foolishness, if I'm going to put up with the shenanigans, if the tomfoolery is going to be real and deep, let it be for a reason. Let it be for a purpose, so that at the end, I may be refined. I may be having a deeper resolve about my faith, a deeper resolve about God's call in my life, a deeper resolve about my actual purpose on this earth. I like to suffer with a purpose. So those were a few of the things. It was 9 things that I learned, and I'm sure this list is not exhaustive. And so I just want to run back over them because I have a question for us. So I learned that you're never too old to face your fears. It might get messy, but keep pressing. You will probably make a mistake, but just regroup and get back to the race. Don't give up. Don't compare yourselves to others and run your own race. Allow yourself to evaluate your motivation. Keep pushing to teach yourself about yourself. And I like to suffer. Think about suffering for or with a purpose. And so with that in mind, all of those kind of made me think about modern day Christianity, especially when the man said, getting to know yourself and running your own race, and how many of us, and I am definitely speaking to me, many of us have gotten comfortable in our walk, in our purpose, in the things that we're doing. These individuals, many of them were runners, many of them do mountain biking, many of them are swimmers, they are triathletes, and all of these, and some of them were none of these things. Some of them, this was their first time. But for those who have done this kind of thing in the past, just running, I say just like I could do it, but running a 26-mile marathon wasn't enough anymore. For the one guy, running 100-mile marathons wasn't enough. Doing triathlons wasn't enough because they didn't want to get comfortable. They wanted to push themselves. And yet for us, for me, maybe it's just me. I won't say y'all. I won't say us. For me, it is a 5-minute prayer. That's comfortable. I've gotten comfortable with that. Is, reading the verse of the day on YouVersion. I've gotten comfortable with that. going to service on a Sunday, is that enough? Have I gotten comfortable with that? What would happen if, like these teams, like these individuals who made up these teams, what would happen if we made a conscious decision to push ourselves to the limit or beyond what we perceive to be our limit in our comfortable Christianity? What would that look like? Would that be praying for some people that might be praying for 30 minutes to push yourself. For some people that might be praying for an hour. For some people that might be praying for 2 hours. What would it mean to push yourself beyond comfortable Christianity? Would that mean not even putting a limit on how many chapters you read in a day or how much time you spend studying the Word of God? What would we need to do to move beyond our comfortable Christianity? Do we only fast because it's Lent? Do we only fast because if we're part of a organized local ministry because it's the first of the year and we're doing a Daniel's fast, or the pastor has called for a fast, or because our life is crazy and we're like, oh, I need to fast? What would it mean to go beyond comfortable Christianity? What would it mean to live a lifestyle of fasting and consecration comes to mind? What would that mean? What would it mean to test ourselves? So they're testing themselves. They are doing things that maybe they've never done or maybe never done for this extended period of time. What would it mean to test ourselves and to possibly be like them, to be like, oh my gosh, the revelations that I received, the insight that I received, the self-reflection that I received in this intense yet intimate time? What would that mean for us? Will we end up becoming kind of more alive like they were, like having this greater revelation and understanding and like epiphany experience to be like, you know what, when I pushed myself past my level of comfort, because is it really a sacrifice if we're comfortable? Again, I'm talking to me. Y'all got it together. Me on the other hand, I'm still trying to figure it out. Is it really sacrifice if I'm good with it? If I'm good with waking up at 6 o'clock, is it still a sacrifice, or do I need to wake up now at 5:30 or 5 o'clock? Is it really a sacrifice? Again, have I moved past comfortable Christianity if it's commonplace? Talking to me. So I was trying to figure out after I watched this, I was like, what would a spiritual eco challenge look like? What would that look like? What would that look like? What would that look like? I would love to hear from you all, whether you're watching now or watching the replay. What would a spiritual eco challenge, or the world's toughest spiritual race, what would that look like? What would that include? What would that entail? Would it be, like I said, more intensive prayer? Would it be intercession? Would it be fasting that's beyond what you do? Like if you do a 1-day fast, what if it's a 3-day fast? If you do a 3-day fast, what if it's a 7-day fast? If it's a 7-day fast of no meat, what if it's of liquid only? Like, what would be an eco challenge for us in the body of Christ? And I get it that's relative, like the challenge is relative, but what would that look like? What would that, think about that? That's you guys' homework. What would an eco challenge, a spiritual eco challenge, a spiritual world's toughest race, what would that look like for you? Because I know I am looking at that for myself. I want to do that for myself. These individuals have emboldened me to not only think about this, but to really want to do it and want to be intentional about pushing myself beyond my comfortable Christianity, push myself beyond kind of my day-to-day, like, oh, I can do that. If I feel that way about it, I want to go to the sacrifice level of my Christianity. So those are my thoughts. Those are some of the lessons that I learned from watching that show. And so if you have Prime Video, go check it out. World Suffrage Race, Eco Challenge Fiji, and let me know what are some of the things you learned after watching it. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, for watching it live, for watching the replay. I would love to hear from you. So let me know your thoughts on the lessons learned. Let me know your thoughts on what your own personal spiritual challenge would look like. I want to again remind you, if you're in the St. Louis area, please come hang out with us on Saturday, April 30th for our health and wellness event from 11 to 1. It's going to be great. Flyer is all over social media. The link is in my bio on IG. Cash App is $about-face LLC for the $15 fee for that event. And then also wanted to remind you to be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I will henceforth be doing all lives on YouTube directly. So no more looking at one camera for IG or one camera for Facebook. Everything will be on YouTube. So hopefully you'll join me so you can watch it live, or always you can watch it later. So I love you guys. I again appreciate you hanging out with me, and I will talk to you later. Love you guys. Be blessed, Dr. S. All right, Facebook, love you. Be blessed, Dr. S.